Okay. Let's just make sure all the audio is working. We got everything working correct here. All right, there we go. Let's see. Give me a second. Well, you might be picking up a lot of background noise because right now the wind is howling like a demon outside the window. It's actually pretty eerie, but kind of like it. At any rate, starting at the beginning, I am Unthoft Neverborn, the abyss that slumbers, and you are listening to Eldritch Rants. We're on number 7 here. In my continuing quest to, get better at this. So, practice makes perfect. Did have a bunch of people that wanted on tonight. Seems like everybody's busy, which, hey, pretty reasonable considering it's midnight on a Saturday. Wouldn't expect a lot of people to be available. So, I'm going to stick with the standard rant topics that I had set up before. Although, I'm going to be changing the order because I just found something that happened about, a couple hours ago. Polish politician says women should earn less than men. Now, as I've stated before, I'm half Polish and I try to keep up on things back in the old homeland. But, wow. Problem is, I can't find a lot of details on this story here to find out exactly what he said. Um, I have to depend on what I'm getting through mainstream media right now, and unfortunately, I don't trust them at all. So, on the assumption that he did indeed say the following quote, women must earn less than men because they are weaker, they are smaller, they are less intelligent. One, I'm pretty sure he didn't say that in English because he's in Poland. So, I'd like to hear the original footage myself sometime. But assuming he is saying that, in the interest of fairness, I do have to say, no, that's not the case. People should be allowed to earn whatever they can earn based on their own inherent ability and not based on some preconceived notion of what tribe you're in and that sort of nonsense. Which I'll bring back up later in another topic I wanted to talk about. But first, yeah, I know I'm late because unfortunately, my times that I can get on are Friday, sometimes Saturday, sometimes Sunday. I miss a lot. I'm usually the last one to the party here because everything seems to happen on Monday and Tuesday, and in this case, I'm of course talking about Donald Trump's speech to the Joint Congress or whatever it's called. It wasn't actually a State of the Union; it's some other weird name. It was pretty amazing. I mean, I wish people didn't interrupt him so much, but I can understand why they were clapping. I would put it as probably the best speech in 29 years. I know that's saying a lot, but no, I don't think I've heard a good as speech since, Ronald Reagan said, Gorbachev, tear down this wall. It was truly moving. Now, whether or not the sincerity is the case with the mainstream media, because you'll see a lot of the outlets, especially CNN, going, who would have known that Donald Trump could follow a script? Who would have known that Donald Trump could be presidential? Everybody who listened to any of his speeches. He tailors his conversation specifically to whoever he's talking to. If he's talking to normal people, he talks like a normal person. If he's talking to a room full of politicians, he talks like a politician. This isn't brain surgery. This is common sense. This is basic. Honestly, it's basic politics 101. No reason why he shouldn't be. And he hasn't changed his position. CNN keeps wanting to say, oh, he's changed. No, he hasn't changed. Nothing he said in his speech is any different from many of his previous speeches. The only thing that's different is that you're not spinning it as bad. This is a sign of mainstream media dying. They can't just come right out and say they're wrong. They have to put a spin on it and say, oh, we didn't change, Donald Trump has changed. It's a joke. And the fact that they think anybody's going to buy it is another story. Don't buy it. Don't believe them. Don't listen to them. Even now, even if they start saying, oh, we're sorry, it's too late. You cannot trust them. They realize that insulting you and offending you and trying to call you racist and homophobic and sexist and all this other crap didn't work. It failed. Amazing. So if it's failed, what else do they got left? Oh, let's try being nice again. No. And a lot of other YouTubers are echoing this, and I'm going to echo it now. Yes, it's great when you help out with money, but we don't need money. We don't. I put almost no money into this channel whatsoever, and I can reach 100 odd people. Now, we need more people who are going to go out there and make their own channels. I don't care if you're only getting on there once a month and saying, yeah, I agree with these guys. Do that. If you have any talent whatsoever, do it. If all you're good at is writing, let's say you're good at making scripts or you're good at doing reaction videos, contact me. I got a whole private Reddit board just for people to throw up their scripts, toss them up there so that other people can take them and use them. You want to just do some writing? Hey, give me a buzz. I could use you. Are you good at art? Because look at my art. My art is a stick figure spider that only has 6 legs. I kind of like Witsy. But you know what? If you think you can do better, I'll take a fan art. I used to do a lot of fan casts based around Welcome to Night Vale before Joseph Fink got a stick up his ass and basically told us all to go fuck ourselves. Seeing what happened after he attacked his fans and the way that Welcome to Night Vale was doing before he attacked his fans, I realized something. Every fan who imitates you, who makes their own version of your show, who creates a picture, who creates a script, who does anything that basically promotes you, is free advertisement. Welcome to Night Vale didn't have to put one thin dime into promoting their show because they had so many fans willing to do free advertisement. The price to that is they were making their own content, and some of it was pretty damn good. Welcome Back Desert Bluffs, in my opinion, was absolutely amazing by the creator. I knew her. She did a wonderful job, and she took what was basically started out as a comedy, and she was definitely going someplace dark. I liked it. And then Joseph Fink flips out. All the strong content creators quit. We went on to do other things. There was no point in sticking with it anymore because he was just going to get on our trouble. And none of us could afford a lawsuit. So what happens next? Go look at Welcome to Night Vale now. Not quite as good as it used to be. It's fluctuating a bit, but I wouldn't say it's awesome anymore. And that's a fundamental thing that you need to realize when you're a content creator. If your fans want to imitate you, this is something you should encourage. Now, I don't have much to copy here. I'm basically just another guy ranting on the internet. However, that said, become another guy ranting on the internet. You're not going to drown out the message with your little channel. You will amplify the message. You will make it louder. You'll hear that from social justice warriors. In fact, I've got a whole video reacting to One particular feminist that's kind of sitting on the back burner. I need to record it later. Basically, she tries to come out and say, we need to be more civil. We can't waste speech on bad opinions. That's basically what she's saying. That's her excuse for censorship. We don't need to waste speech. Every idea is necessary, even the bad ones, even the horrible ones, even the racist ones. I do not approve of racism. I'm against it staunchly. I mock them all the time. I go right into the heart of the beast and I deal with them straight on. Because personally, I believe if, and as you notice by the flag of Kekistan on my channel, I'm not racist. I'm not white anything. I don't really have a lot of pride in my race. I also have no shame in it either. I depend only on myself and my own achievements to be judged. And I do the same for everybody else. Nothing I find is more offensive than somebody claiming greatness based on the actions of others, nor on I should get compensation because somebody else with the same melanin content as me suffered at some point. Which always, then I get to turn around and say, oh, your ancestors were enslaved 400 years ago. That's interesting. My ancestors were enslaved last generation for me. And the generation before that. Because I'm from Poland. You know, Nazis got about 45% of my family tree, and the Russians finished off about 40% of my family tree. And, well, pretty much the family tree that didn't get wiped out is here in America now. At Nazi camps, they were actual slaves, actually worked like slaves, and then actually murdered. Treblinka. They were forced to disassemble their own site where they were murdered before they were all rounded up and shot. And let's not even go into what communist Russia did to Poland. That's a whole other can of worms. When I was a kid, I got used to be told stories about that from the elders around here. Funny thing to lay at the feet of an 8-year-old kid, but that's their attitude. You need to grow up fast. Probably kind of why that old man, who's the incredibly sexist guy, who's a prime minister in Poland, has the attitude that he has. Poland's been through a lot of shit. And the one thing that got him through it was tradition. I'm betting that's why he's like that. Because he's probably in his head thinking, we need to keep women in the home. Because look at these other countries where they don't stay in the home, their societies are falling apart. When you constantly believe you're at war, well, you'll take all sorts of crazy actions to win. I know I joke about there being World War meme, but there is no real war, not in a traditional sense. Yet we have a lot of people who constantly think we are at war. And for them, any action is justified. They actually believe they're fighting for the survival of their X. Fill in the blank. Whatever variable you want. Fact of the matter is there's a war of sorts, but it's a war of ideas. It's not a war of individuals. It's a war of concepts. See which ideas win out, which ones don't. And I have a feeling this war, if we don't win this one, not to sound like doomsday, but if we don't win this war of free ideas, if we don't create a free market for ideas, there will be no more good ideas. There will be only the good ideas that serve those who are in charge. And that will continue until they become so horribly corrupt that they implode. This has happened time and time again. It's what happens. When you set up a society where It's a totalitarian fascist regime, which is what the left wants. It always implodes, eventually. It's not sustainable. You cause too much suffering, and the people on top don't actually care about the system. They're not willing to sacrifice. Capitalism, you're rewarded for sacrificing. You're rewarded for thinking about the future. You're rewarded for thinking about tomorrow. Socialism doesn't care about tomorrow, it only cares about right now. I remember when I was a bill collector, we had a saying, there is no next month. When it came to collecting the money, there was no next month. You would burn $1,000 account to get a $350 settlement and kiss off the other $650 as long as you got that $350 now, because there is no next month. You could get $100 a month from somebody for 10 months, or you can get $350 now. You take the $350 now. This sort of short-sighted lack of a long-term view is what resulted in so many collection agencies going under. They would collect their money for 6 months, a year, whatever, and then when enough lawsuits built up, they just burned the company, went across the hallway sometimes, rented a new room in the building, set up a brand new collection agency, and just sold the assets from one to the other. People wonder why bill collectors have such a bad reputation. It's because we're freaking evil. But my point of all of that is short-sightedness. A lack of investment in society, in the government, in our financial system. We don't do that. We take the safe road and we let other people take the risks, and the people who are taking the risks invariably are being incredibly selfish. And what happens is you get a slow, inevitable decline. And as long as it's slow enough, everybody kind of goes, yeah, things are kind of bad, but they're not that bad. It's to use the analogy, it's the frog in the pot of boiling water. Throw a frog in a pot of boiling water, it jumps right out. Frog in a pot of water that's cold, put it on a stove and slowly heat it up, he'll swim around until he boils to death. I think now a lot of people are coming to a resolution that society is not helping them, that a lot of things they're being fed are wrong and are self-serving of the people who are telling them that. And that brings us back to mainstream media, why we don't trust them, why you shouldn't trust them, and why we need to oppose them on every front. This is not a time to let up. This is a time to kill them while they're down. We need to break them up. They're too much of a monopoly. That is the true death of any financial system, monopolies. It isn't socialism, it's monopolies, because socialism is a monopoly. Socialism is the concentration of control into fewer and fewer hands. And when you have too much control in too few hands, there's no competition, there's no corrections, and bad ideas get amplified. Monopolies are the problem. And our media right now is pretty much a monopoly, at least the mainstream one. And that's why they're terrified of people like PewDiePie, and they're terrified of Donald Trump having a Twitter account and he should close it down. No, he should never close that down. In fact, he should open up his own YouTube channel, or actually minds.com. And every week he should pop on, and if he's doing nothing else but saying, I had a good lunch this week, everything was fine. He should do that. Ah, crap. Okay, gotta hold for a second. Sterling Bob speaking, may I help you? Okay, hold on. I'll be back. Sorry about that. I really don't like. You know what? I'm just not going to go into it. I've got some extremely selfish neighbors. Any rate, not entirely sure where I was, so I'm just going to go and check back my list of things that I wanted to talk about, and then we'll pick it up from there. Ah, okay. Jumping onto a new topic. Let's check that over there. As I was saying before, I encourage everybody to use their own skills and abilities to um, let themselves be heard. If you yourself don't want to start your own channel and you don't have any money, I know there's a lot of people asking for it, but you know, in my opinion, we need more. Money isn't what we need. We need time. We need creative input. We need, artists of all sorts. You know how to make music, make music. You know how to draw pictures, draw pictures. But what is also important, which is why I would direct you to some of my Eldritch lesson series, which I'm thinking that I should start expanding more on, is how to argue, how to debate, how to think logically. It's a trait which has really been removed from a lot of learning these days, and unfortunately, a lot of curriculums in school. It's people just don't think logically anymore. So, a few things that I want to put out to you just now because it's something that I had in an argument with somebody else. The first one is, and here's the bullet point: feelings first, facts follow. For logic justifies our passions. What does this mean? It means when you're talking with people, you need to move past their feelings first. You can't just jump to telling the truth. If nothing else, you need to try and figure out where they are emotionally. Because there's a lot of people out there who get really, really angry about things. They get incredibly focused on stuff. And they just tune out everything else. I was watching this guy. He's one of the Black Hitler youth. Just going, and his arguments don't have any internal logic to them, but emotionally, they're logical to him. And that's the thing. It's all about his emotions. It's his feelings first. And if you're ever going to have an argument with somebody to try and change their mind, you have to start with the feelings. Then you can move on to the facts. Because the fact of the matter is whatever you're passionate about is what you use logic to justify. Now, unfortunately, some people get really passionate about simple stuff like, finding enough food. Politics and higher aspirations don't often come up. But when people get more secure, their lives get more stable, then they spend more time on these higher things. And that's where the logic justifies our passions come in. We use logic to justify how we feel and what we feel is important. And when something attacks our passions, we have a tendency to just, reject it out of sight. It's okay to be somewhat defensive if somebody's attacking your position, but what's important is that you're willing to take a step back and say, why am I saying they're wrong? What should I be thinking about? What should I be considering? Because, as another saying I like to tell people, I am fallible and I love to fail. For without error, there is no true path. No, there is no. Without error, one cannot know what true path. I'm sorry, I'm just off my game right now after being interrupted. I had this whole thing worked out here. My apologies. The point of it is, if you never screw up, if you never make a mistake, if you never have an error, how do you know you're right? Making a mistake It's kind of like the rumble strip on the side of the road when you're driving along. You start hearing that rumbling sound, hey, maybe you're going the wrong way. If you never hear the rumbling sound and you're kind of not paying attention, how do you know you haven't driven off the road? You might think you're going the right way, but maybe you haven't. Sometimes it gets murky. Sometimes it gets kind of dark. Sometimes you're not sure exactly where the path is. Every once in a while, checking to see is the opposite of what I'm saying still false is important because it will tell you if you're on the right path. If you test a negative hypothesis of whatever you're talking about, or if it's impossible to test the negative hypothesis, then you need to think long and hard about whether or not you're on the right path. Don't doubt yourself in the middle of an argument, but when you have time, doubt yourself. One should always be confident when actually dealing with confrontation. In the heat of the battle, there's no point in allowing yourself doubt unless you're given absolute critical proof that you're wrong. Which brings me up to the summary of this. There is a difference between arguing with somebody and having a debate. People forget this a lot. Argument is an attempt to change the mind of the person you're arguing with. And they are attempting to change your mind. You both have opposing viewpoints. You might come to a mutual understanding. You might convince them you're right. They might convince you you're right. You both might disagree. But if anybody else witnesses your argument, they are completely irrelevant because your sole and only goal is to convince the other person. When you're doing that, you have to deal with their feelings first. A debate doesn't matter if you convince the other person you're right or wrong. The other person is actually kind of irrelevant. Your goal is to change the hearts and minds of the people who are listening to you. The people who are listening to you, one can hope, are at least mostly detached. They're not the ones being argued with, they're the ones witnessing the argument. That being the case, you don't have to deal with feelings as much. You should keep it in mind. You shouldn't just dismiss how people feel. Being rude and crude may have its place, but only if you know the audience well. When you're dealing with a debate, you should focus more on the facts. Maybe add a little feeling, a little pizzazz, a few jokes, something like that, to keep things light, to keep people interested. But in the end, in a debate, you should 90% focus on facts because that's what people are going to look at. Because for them, for most of the people who have come to the debate, you've got three people. People already believing in the other side and they're not going to change. The people who are on your side who already believe you and you don't need to convince them. And then the people who are in the middle are the ones who aren't strong one way or the other. They haven't made this a passion of theirs yet. Therefore, you don't have to worry about the feelings. Those are the hearts and minds you're going after. When people have already created a passion that opposes yours, you're going to have to deal with the feelings first every time. And you're not going to do that in a debate. You're not going to do that with a crowd. You're not going to convert 40 or 50 people at once. It's going to have to be in the trenches, slugging it out, talking to people one at a time. And I'm not going to pull an Anita Sarkeesian saying we have to point out to everybody that everybody's racist, everybody's sexist, everybody. No. It's not necessary to point it out every time because that's ignoring people's feelings. However, you see somebody who's, obviously wrong, believing something that's crazy, feel them out first. Figure out why they think that. Ask them how they feel about it. Have them give you examples. Talk about when they became convinced of this. And then maybe at another time when they're not quite so upset, approach them with logic. You're not going to win an argument with a sledgehammer. You can win a debate with one. And that was kind of the point that I wanted to bring up. Any rate, I had some other ideas and stuff that I wanted to talk about, and maybe I will start something later tonight if some of the people I was trying to reach get on later. But thanks to being interrupted, I kind of have lost my groove. So sorry this one kind of sucked. I will talk to you guys later. I'm Unthoff Neverborn, the Abyss that slumbers, and I am looking forward to working on the next episode of Keck FM, where we get some updates on how World War Meme has been going. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a pleasant evening.